The setting sun painted the crystalline Vraxian towers in hues of amber and crimson, their angular forms jutting from the ruins of what was once downtown Seattle like teeth from a broken jaw. Dr. Sarah Chen wiped the sweat from her brow, careful not to draw attention, as she examined the twisted piece of circuitry in her hands. 5 years of sorting through humanity's technological remnants had taught her to move with deliberate efficiency, not too fast to arouse suspicion, not too slow to attract punishment. The piece she held made her heart skip a beat. Beneath the scorched exterior and tangle of wires, she recognized the distinctive architecture of a quantum processing node. Not just any node, but one she had helped design at the Institute before the invasion. Her fingers traced the familiar patterns, mind racing with possibilities. Worker 2749, maintain your station. The metallic voice of a Vraxian overseer echoed through the vast sorting facility. Sarah quickly placed the component in the salvage bin, memorizing its designation number. Through the facility's transparent ceiling panels, she could see the massive Vraxian collection ships hovering overhead, their hulls shimming with an otherworldly iridescence that still captivated her scientific curiosity. The sorting facility stretched for miles in every direction, a labyrinth of conveyor belts and processing stations where thousands of humans worked in silent precision. They were gathering pieces of their own civilization, organizing the remnants of humanity's golden age into categories their conquerors had defined. The irony wasn't lost on Sarah. The Vraxians' obsession with efficiency had led them to use humans for this task, believing their familiarity with the technology would make them more effective sorters. They weren't wrong, but their logic had a flaw. Sarah moved to the next pile of debris, her movements mechanical, but her mind racing. Over the past months, she had noticed patterns in the components the Vraxians deemed valuable. They coveted certain pieces of quantum technology, yet their sorting parameters revealed crucial gaps in their understanding. They sought the hardware but missed the theoretical breakthroughs that made it truly revolutionary. A slight tremor ran through the facility as another collection ship docked overhead. Sarah used the momentary distraction to slip a small piece of graphene circuitry into her sleeve, another component that matched her mental catalog. The Vraxian scanners were calibrated to detect their own technology. They never bothered to screen for the simpler human devices they considered primitive. Shift rotation in 10 minutes. The automated announcement echoed through the facility. Sarah straightened her back, feeling the familiar ache of another 12-hour shift. As she prepared to join the orderly line of workers heading to the dormitory blocks, movement near the facility's eastern entrance caught her eye. A new group of workers was being led in, replacements from another sector. Among them, a tall man with military bearing caught her attention. He moved differently than the others, his eyes scanning the facility with calculated precision. When his gaze met hers, there was a flash of recognition, not of her personally, but of something in her stance that mirrored his own alertness. Sarah filed the observation away as she joined the exodus of exhausted workers. In her pocket, the small piece of graphene felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Each component she managed to identify brought her closer to confirming her theory. The Vraxians' technological superiority had a weakness, one hidden in the fundamental principles of quantum mechanics they took for granted. As she passed through the neural scanners at the dormitory entrance, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The Vraxians had conquered Earth with their advanced technology, but they had never bothered to truly understand the species they had subjugated. They saw humans as clever animals, capable of following complex instructions, but nothing more. They would learn, too late, that humanity's greatest weapon had never been its technology, but rather its ability to see patterns in chaos, to find hope in despair, and to devise solutions that their logically rigid minds could never conceive. The quantum processor node would be moved to deep storage tomorrow. Sarah had memorized its location. It was time to set her plan in motion. The graveyard shift at Section D7 of the sorting facility offered Sarah something precious: shadows. In the dimmed lighting designed for the Vraxians' sensitive eyes, she could examine salvaged components more carefully, hidden from the watchful gaze of the overhead sensors. Tonight's harvest had been particularly promising. She turned the twisted remnant of a quantum entanglement array over in her hands, her mind translating the damage into its original configuration. The Vraxians had classified it as a simple communication device, but Sarah knew better. This was a piece of Project Prometheus, her team's last breakthrough before the invasion. The aliens' misunderstanding of its purpose confirmed what she had long suspected. A soft chime indicated a patrol approaching. Sarah smoothly transitioned to sorting standard electronics, her movements precise and unhurried. The Vraxian observer glided past her station, its crystalline exoskeleton refracting the low light into subtle patterns. She had learned to read their movements. This one was bored, performing its duties with minimal attention. Interesting technique. A low voice murmured from the sorting station behind her. Sarah's hands didn't falter as she recognized the military man she'd noticed earlier. You're categorizing quantum components by their subharmonic resonance patterns, aren't you? Sarah maintained her steady pace, mind racing. His observation was astute, too astute for a random worker. The Vraxians prefer their salvage pre-sorted by energy signatures. She replied carefully. It's more efficient. Efficient, yes, but they're missing the forest for the trees. He moved his station slightly closer, staying within the acceptable distance parameters. Marcus Reynolds, former Quantum Engineering Corps. I couldn't help but notice your sorting patterns match theoretical models we used to work with. Sarah allowed herself a slight nod. Their understanding of quantum mechanics is linear, she said, selecting her words carefully. They see the technology as a tool, not a framework. A framework that could be repurposed. Marcus's question hung in the air between them. Before Sarah could respond, the facility's lighting shifted to full spectrum, signaling the start of main shift. The conversation died as hundreds of workers filed in, but Sarah had seen enough in Marcus's eyes to recognize a potential ally. More importantly, his presence confirmed that other military and scientific personnel had been deliberately scattered throughout the sorting facilities. During the midday break, Sarah made her way to the designated nutrition block. The Vraxians' obsession with order meant every worker had an assigned seat, making unofficial meetings nearly impossible. Nearly, but not quite. She had noticed that the neural dampeners they used to prevent human violence had a predictable pattern of interference near the facility's power conduits. As she sat in her designated spot, Sarah began her daily ritual of documenting her work quota on her assigned datavat. To any observer, she appeared to be another diligent worker recording her productivity. In reality, she was encoding her findings into a pattern of numerical sequences that looked like sorting algorithms. A shadow fell across her pad. Marcus, walking past to dispose of his nutrition tray. As he passed, he dropped a small object that skittered under her seat. Sarah waited 5 minutes before retrieving it. A memory crystal, barely larger than her thumbnail, modified with human technology. The kind of hybrid device the Vraxians believed impossible. That night, in the privacy of her sleeping pod, Sarah accessed the crystal using a technique she had discovered by accident. The Vraxians' neural dampeners created a perfect shield for low-power quantum transmissions, an oversight born of their inability to grasp human innovation. The crystal contained technical specifications from before the invasion, military-grade quantum communication protocols that the Vraxians had never detected. Sarah's hands trembled as she read the final line. Others are waiting. Hope remains. She cleared the crystal and settled into her bunk, mind racing with possibilities. The Vraxians had built their empire on technological superiority, but they had never faced an enemy who could turn their own assumptions against them. Their rigid adherence to their understanding of physics had created blind spots that were becoming increasingly apparent. Tomorrow, she would begin Phase 2, establishing a secure network using the Vraxians' own neural dampening field as a carrier wave. They thought they had contained humanity's intelligence. Instead, they had given them the perfect cover for resistance. The quantum transmission matrix hummed silently in Sarah's hands, disguised as a malfunctioning Vraxian power cell. 3 weeks of careful modifications had transformed it into the heart of their growing communication network. Marcus stood watch near the power conduit junction, his presence masked by the neural dampener's interference pattern. Connection established with Sector 7. Sarah whispered, watching the quantum entanglement pattern stabilize. Dr. Rivera's team is online. The network they had built was elegant in its simplicity. Each node operated within the harmonic resonance of the Vraxian neural dampeners, using the very technology meant to control them as a carrier wave for their quantum communications. The alien sensors interpreted the signals as normal background radiation, the quantum equivalent of white noise. Tokyo facility responding, Marcus reported, checking his modified datapad. Dr. Tanaka confirms receipt of the quantum processor specifications. His team has already identified similar components in their salvage stream. Sarah allowed herself a moment of pride. What had started as a 2-person operation had grown into a web of resistance cells, each composed of carefully selected scientists and engineers. The Vraxians' efficiency had worked against them. By concentrating Earth's brightest minds in their sorting facilities, they had inadvertently created think tanks of human ingenuity. A sudden shift in the dampening field's rhythm made them both freeze. Sarah quickly powered down the transmitter as heavy footsteps approached their section. A Vraxian overseer, its crystalline armor catching the artificial light, conducted an unscheduled inspection. Worker productivity in this sector has decreased by 3.7%. The alien's metallic voice resonated through the chamber. Explain this inefficiency. Marcus stepped forward, his posture perfectly submissive. Apologies, Overseer. We discovered a batch of degraded components requiring additional sorting protocols. I take full responsibility for the delay. The Overseer's multifaceted eyes studied him for a moment. Sarah held her breath, knowing their entire operation could unravel if the alien decided to investigate further. But true to their nature, the Vraxians' rigid thinking worked in their favor. Implement corrective measures immediately. Productivity must be maintained. The Overseer moved on, its attention already turned to the next statistical anomaly in its reports. Once clear, Sarah resumed the transmission, her fingers dancing across the quantum matrix with practiced precision. We need to accelerate the timeline, she muttered. They're starting to notice the patterns, even if they don't understand their significance. Through the network, reports began flowing in from resistance cells worldwide. Each facility had its own story of discovery, pieces of advanced human technology that the Vraxians had categorized incorrectly. Dr. Tanaka's team had located crucial quantum memory cores. Dr. Rivera had secured essential graviton manipulation circuits. Each piece brought them closer to their goal. Message from Dr. Zhang in Beijing. Marcus reported, his voice tight with excitement. They've confirmed our theory about the Vraxian quantum field generators. The aliens never developed quantum superposition technology beyond the 4th dimension. Sarah's hands stilled on the transmitter. This was the confirmation she had been waiting for. They don't understand quantum concatenation, she breathed. Their entire technological framework is built on linear quantum mechanics. They never made the leap to multidimensional state manipulation. The implications were staggering. The Vraxians' technological superiority was based on brute force application of quantum principles. They had never developed the subtle, elegant solutions that human scientists had been pursuing before the invasion. Their strength was also their weakness. They couldn't detect what they didn't believe was possible. A soft chime indicated the end of their transmission window. As they packed away their equipment, Sarah shared a knowing look with Marcus. Their network was growing stronger every day, protected by the very systems meant to ensure their subjugation. In facilities across the globe, humanity's greatest minds were working in concert, preparing for a revolution the Vraxians couldn't comprehend. Next transmission window is in 6 hours, Marcus confirmed, resuming his worker's posture. Dr. Rivera's team will have the preliminary device schematics ready by then. Sarah nodded, her mind already racing with calculations. Soon, they would have enough components and knowledge assembled to begin the real work. The Vraxians had given them everything they needed. They just didn't know it yet. The holographic display flickered to life in the abandoned maintenance tunnel, casting a soft blue glow across the faces of the assembled resistance leaders. Sarah stood before the small group, her heart racing as she prepared to reveal the full scope of their discovery. The neural dampeners overhead provided cover for their meeting, their quantum interference creating a perfect blind spot in Vraxian surveillance. "What we've discovered isn't just a weakness in their technology," Sarah began, manipulating the holographic model with practiced gestures. "It's a fundamental blind spot in their understanding of the universe." The display showed a complex quantum matrix, its patterns shifting in ways that would appear chaotic to Vraxian sensors. Dr. Tanaka leaned forward, his eyes widening as he recognized the implications. Multiple quantum states existing simultaneously in different dimensional planes. "We were working on this at CER and before the invasion." "Exactly," Sarah confirmed, expanding the model. The Vraxians developed their technology along purely linear quantum paths. They can manipulate quantum states with incredible precision, but only in sequence. They never discovered quantum concatenation, the ability to stack quantum states in parallel dimensions. Marcus stepped forward, adding his military perspective. Their weapons, their shields, their entire defense system. It all operates on the same principles. They're looking for threats in a straight line while we're working in circles around them. The hologram shifted, displaying the schematics they had assembled from components across the globe. Dr. Rivera pointed to a particular configuration of quantum processors. "These pieces from the Amsterdam facility. They're from Project Prometheus, aren't they? The quantum fold generator." Sarah nodded, remembering the project that had consumed her team's final months before the invasion. "We were on the verge of a breakthrough. The ability to create localized pockets of altered quantum states, spaces where the normal laws of physics could be selectively modified. The Vraxians classified the components as failed communication devices because they couldn't comprehend their true purpose." The display changed again, showing the interior of a Vraxian battlecruiser. "Their ships use quantum field generators to maintain their structural integrity," Sarah explained. "But those fields only operate on 3 quantum dimensions. If we can create a device that manipulates the 4th through 7th dimensions simultaneously, we could collapse their quantum fields without them even detecting the attack." Dr. Zhang finished, his voice barely above a whisper. Their sensors wouldn't register the threat until their systems had already failed. The implications hung heavy in the air. They weren't just building a weapon. They were creating something that could fundamentally alter the rules of reality within a localized space. The Vraxians' technological superiority would become their greatest vulnerability. A sudden change in the dampening field's rhythm caused everyone to freeze. Marcus quickly checked his modified scanner. "Patrol approaching, 2 minutes out." Sarah collapsed the hologram as the others quickly moved to their evacuation positions. They had rehearsed this dozens of times. Each person had a designated route back to their workstations, timed to avoid security sweeps. Before dispersing, Dr. Tanaka caught Sarah's arm. "The power requirements for quantum concatenation would be enormous. How can we generate that kind of energy under their surveillance?" Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "We don't need to generate it. They're going to give it to us. The Vraxians' power distribution network is based on the same linear quantum principles as their other technology. We can siphon energy through dimensional bleed, collecting power in quantum states they can't detect." The distant sound of Vraxian footsteps forced them to separate. As Sarah made her way back to her station through the maintenance tunnels, her mind raced with calculations. The theory was sound, tested across multiple facilities by the brightest minds remaining on Earth. Now came the hard part, building their device under the watchful eyes of their oppressors. She emerged into the sorting facility just as the shift change began, seamlessly joining the flow of workers. Above her, the Vraxian towers pulsed with quantum energy, unknowingly feeding power into dimensions their builders had never thought to explore. Their certainty in their own superiority had created the perfect conditions for their defeat. The revolution wouldn't come with guns or bombs, but with a whisper in dimensions the Vraxians couldn't hear. 300 feet beneath the ruins of Seattle's old subway system, Sarah carefully adjusted the quantum alignment of their prototype. The makeshift laboratory hummed with stolen power, siphoned through dimensional bleeds that the Vraxians' sensors registered as normal transmission loss. Around her, a carefully selected team of scientists and engineers worked in focused silence. Phase-locked quantum loop stabilizing. Dr. Rivera reported, monitoring a jury-rigged display cobbled together from salvaged components. We're achieving quantum concatenation across 5-dimensional planes simultaneously. The device taking shape before them looked deceptively simple, a spherical array of crystalline matrices surrounding a core of modified Vraxian power cells. Its true complexity lay in the invisible quantum fields it generated, rippling through dimensions that their oppressors had never learned to perceive. Marcus entered through the hidden access tunnel, his expression tense. Security sweep incoming. Top-level Vraxian scientists this time. They're detecting power fluctuations they can't explain. Sarah's hands remained steady as she made her final adjustments. How long? 3 hours until they reach this sector. The surface teams are implementing Protocol Sigma to redirect their attention, but we need to complete this phase before we shut down. Dr. Tanaka looked up from his work on the quantum processor array. The concatenation field is still unstable beyond the 5th dimension. If we try to extend it further now, the power signature might spike enough for even their limited sensors to detect. We don't have a choice, Sarah decided, her mind racing through calculations. If we power down mid-sequence, we risk losing the quantum alignment we've achieved. Dr. Zhang, begin the 6th-dimensional fold integration. Dr. Rivera, prepare to channel any energy bleed through the secondary dampening array. The air seemed to thicken as they pushed the device beyond its previous limits. On their monitors, streams of data showed quantum states multiplying exponentially, each operating in its own dimensional plane while somehow remaining connected through principles the Vraxians had never imagined possible. A warning light flashed on the main console. Power spike in the primary containment field. Dr. Rivera called out, his fingers dancing across the controls. The quantum concatenation is creating harmonic resonances we didn't predict. It's not a malfunction, Sarah realized, watching the pattern emerge. The quantum states aren't just stacking, they're synchronizing across dimensions. The device is teaching itself how to manipulate reality more efficiently than we calculated. The prototype pulsed with an inner light that seemed to bend in impossible ways, visible yet somehow existing just at the edge of perception. Marcus checked his scanner again, his expression shifting from concern to amazement. The Vraxian sensors, they're not registering any of this. The energy readings are being perfectly channeled through dimensional space they can't access. Sarah allowed herself a moment of pride before refocusing on their immediate situation. Begin power down sequence. Dr. Tanaka, record every bit of data from this test. Dr. Zhang, prepare the quantum matrices for transportation. As the device powered down, its glow fading to a subtle shimmer, the implications of what they had achieved hung heavy in the air. They had created something beyond even their initial understanding. A tool that could manipulate the fundamental forces of reality in ways that their conquerors couldn't comprehend or counter. Surface team reports the security sweep is moving through Sector 7. Marcus updated them. We have about 40 minutes to clear out. The team moved with practiced efficiency, disassembling crucial components and concealing them in specially shielded containers. The quantum device itself would remain, hidden beneath layers of dimensional shifts that made it virtually invisible to Vraxian detection methods. As Sarah prepared to return to her assigned work sector, she took one last look at their creation. In its dormant state, it seemed almost ordinary, just another piece of salvaged technology. But she knew better. Within its crystalline matrices lay humanity's future, built from the very components their oppressors had forced them to collect. Tomorrow, she whispered, we begin final assembly of the full-scale version. And then we show them exactly what humanity is capable of. The abandoned mining complex stretched before them, its Vraxian modifications glinting in the pre-dawn light. Sarah and her team had chosen this location carefully, remote enough for their test, yet close enough to a major Vraxian installation to matter. More importantly, the complex's automated systems would provide immediate, measurable results. Final diagnostic complete, Dr. Rivera reported from his position at the makeshift control center they'd established in an old security booth. Quantum matrices are aligned across all 7-dimensional planes. Power flow is stable. Sarah nodded, checking the readings on her own modified display. The device they'd transported here was larger than their prototype, designed to affect a wider area. Its crystalline surface pulsed with that same impossible light, existing somewhere between visible and invisible spectrums. Vraxian patrol drones maintaining standard sweep pattern, Marcus confirmed, monitoring their perimeter. They're completely blind to our presence. The dimensional masking is working perfectly. Dr. Tanaka made a final adjustment to the quantum containment field, ready to initiate primary sequence. If our calculations are correct, the effect should propagate through a 2-kilometer radius, affecting only technology operating on Vraxian quantum principles. Sarah took a deep breath, aware that this moment would either validate their years of work or expose them completely. Initialize the sequence. Start at 10% power. The air seemed to shiver as the device activated. On their monitors, streams of data showed quantum states multiplying and shifting across dimensional planes. The effect was invisible to normal perception, but Sarah could feel it. A subtle change in the fabric of reality itself. Energy signature is stable, Dr. John reported. No detection from Vraxian monitoring systems. Beginning field expansion. They watched as the quantum field expanded outward. The first sign of success came when a Vraxian maintenance drone suddenly dropped from the sky, its quantum-based propulsion system rendered inert by the altered physics within the field. Then another fell, and another. Manufacturing units in the complex are going offline, Dr. Rivera announced, excitement creeping into his voice. Their quantum processors can't function in the altered spacetime we've created. But look, our own equipment is completely unaffected. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The device wasn't just working, it was exceeding their expectations. Within its area of effect, the laws of physics had been subtly rewritten to exclude Vraxian technology, while leaving human systems operational. A warning light flashed on Marcus's console. We've got movement from the main installation. They're registering the equipment failures but can't determine the cause. Repair units are being dispatched. Increase power to 25%, Sarah ordered. Let's see how their repair units handle it. The field's radius doubled. Through their surveillance feeds, they watched as the approaching Vraxian repair vessels suddenly lost power, dropping to the ground like dead insects. The aliens' attempts to diagnose the problem through their quantum scanning networks yielded nothing but error messages. They literally couldn't perceive the cause of their system's failures. Then something unexpected happened. The quantum field began to resonate with the Vraxian installation's power grid, creating cascading failures that spread beyond their intended test area. Field stability dropping, Dr. Tanaka warned. The dimensional interfaces are generating feedback loops we didn't anticipate. Power signatures are beginning to leak into detectable spectrums. Sarah's mind raced through the implications. The Vraxians' power distribution network. It's more quantum entangled than we realized. Our field isn't just affecting their local systems. It's propagating through their entire grid. Multiple alert signals from the installation, Marcus reported tensely. They're dispatching a full investigation team. High-ranking scientists aboard. Shut it down, Sarah ordered. We've seen enough. Begin emergency breakdown procedures. As they quickly disassembled the device, Sarah's thoughts were already racing ahead. The test had proven their theory correct. They could create spaces where Vraxian technology simply couldn't function. But it had also revealed an unexpected vulnerability in the aliens' infrastructure, one that could either be their salvation or their downfall. How long until the investigation team arrives? She asked Marcus. 17 minutes, but they're bringing equipment we've never seen before." Sarah nodded grimly. "Then we better make sure they find exactly what we want them to find. It's time for the next phase of the plan." The quantum network hummed with activity as reports flowed in from resistance cells worldwide. Sarah stood in their underground command center, watching as green confirmation lights appeared on the global display. Each light represented a miniaturized version of their device, positioned at critical points in the Vraxian infrastructure. "Tokyo facility reports ready," Marcus announced, monitoring the incoming signals. Dr. Tanaka's team has successfully integrated their device with the local power grid. Beijing, Moscow, London, all showing green. Dr. Rivera's fingers danced across his console, coordinating the timing sequences. The Vraxians are still investigating the anomalies from our test. Their science division has increased quantum scanning frequencies across all major installations. "Let them scan," Sarah replied, making final adjustments to the master control interface. "They're looking for problems in dimensions they can observe. Our real work is happening in spaces they can't even perceive." The past week had been a carefully choreographed dance of preparation. The Resistance had used the Vraxians' own distribution networks to transport components, hiding their quantum signatures within the background noise of alien technology. Each piece had been disguised as mundane salvage, unremarkable except to those who knew their true purpose. Satellite monitoring shows increased Vraxian fleet activity. Dr. John reported from his station. "They're repositioning their orbital defense platforms. They know something's coming. They just don't know what." Sarah nodded, her expression determined. "They're preparing for a conventional attack. Rebellion, sabotage, something their rigid minds can comprehend. They still haven't grasped that we've rewritten the rules of their reality." A warning light flashed on Marcus's display. "Security sweep approaching the European command sector. Dr. Petrov's team is initiating emergency protocols. Tell them to hold position," Sarah ordered. "The sweep will pass right through their quantum shield without detecting it. The closer the Vraxians look, the less they'll see." The command center fell silent as they watched the security sweep on their monitors. Just as Sarah had predicted, the Vraxian sensors passed through the hidden resistance facility without registering anything unusual. Their dimensional blindness had become their greatest weakness. "All teams report final preparations complete," Marcus announced. "We're ready to initiate the synchronized activation sequence." Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. Years of careful planning, of hiding in plain sight, had led to this. Begin transmission of activation codes. Time to show them what humanity has been building under their noses. The quantum network carried their signal to every hidden device simultaneously. Across the globe, in every major Vraxian installation, reality began to shift. The aliens' quantum-based technology started failing in cascading waves as spaces of altered physics expanded outward from each resistance node. "Vraxian defense systems going offline in Asia sector," Dr. John reported, his voice tight with excitement. "Their quantum field generators are completely inert. Ground transport systems non-functional. Orbital platforms losing power. European sector reporting similar effects," Dr. Rivera added. "The quantum cascade is propagating through their power grid exactly as calculated. Their attempts to reroute systems are failing. They can't establish stable quantum states within the affected zones." On the main display, they watched as Vraxian ships fell from the sky, their advanced propulsion systems rendered useless by the altered physics surrounding Earth. The aliens' mighty technology, built on their limited understanding of quantum mechanics, was being systematically nullified by the very species they had conquered. "They're beginning to understand," Marcus observed, monitoring Vraxian communication channels. "Their command structure is in chaos. Some ships are attempting to retreat to orbit, but the effect is spreading faster than they can escape." Sarah allowed herself a moment of satisfaction before focusing on their next challenge. "Begin Phase 2. Transfer power to the primary device. It's time to show them that this isn't just a temporary disruption. We're rewriting the fundamental laws of physics in our solar system." As her team initiated the second phase, Sarah thought about how fitting it was. The Vraxians had forced humanity to collect the pieces of their broken civilization, never realizing they were helping to forge the key to their own defeat. The primary device pulsed with impossible light as it drew power from a dozen quantum tap points across the planet. In the command center, Sarah watched as the final calculation streamed across her display. Everything they had done until now had been preparation for this moment. The creation of a permanent quantum barrier around Earth's solar system. Vraxian command ships attempting to consolidate their remaining forces, Marcus reported, tracking the alien fleet's desperate maneuvers. They're gathering at the L2 Lagrange point, trying to establish a stable quantum field generation zone. Dr. Rivera's hands moved across his console with practiced precision. They still think this is a temporary effect, something they can wait out or overcome with enough power. They haven't realized we're about to change the fundamental laws of physics within our entire solar system. Primary quantum matrices at full power, Dr. Zhang announced. Dimensional interfaces stable across all 9 planes. We're ready to begin the final sequence. Sarah nodded, her mind clear despite the weight of the moment. Initialize the solar quantum barrier. Let's give humanity back its sky. The device's hum deepened as it began its work. On their monitors, they watched as a new kind of space-time propagated outward from Earth, expanding at the speed of light. Within this altered region of reality, the laws of physics subtly shifted, creating a universe where Vraxian technology couldn't function while human innovation flourished. Quantum barrier reaching lunar orbit, Dr. Tanaka reported from his station. Effect is stable and self-sustaining. The dimensional folds are multiplying exactly as predicted. Through their quantum network, reports flowed in from resistance cells worldwide. The remaining Vraxian ground forces found themselves completely cut off from their technology, their mighty weapons and defensive systems reduced to inert crystalline sculptures. Message from the Vraxian High Command, Marcus announced, his voice tight with anticipation. They're requesting communication. Their universal translator is one of the few systems still partially functioning. Sarah straightened her shoulders. Put them through. They should understand exactly what's happening to them. The alien commander's holographic form flickered into existence, its crystalline features distorted by the failing quantum field that sustained its technology. What have you done? The metallic voice demanded. How have you corrupted our systems? We haven't corrupted anything, Sarah replied calmly. We've simply extended our understanding of quantum mechanics beyond your linear limitations. The space around Earth now operates according to principles you never bothered to explore. Principles that humanity discovered while you thought us primitive. Quantum barrier reaching Mars orbit, Dr. Rivera reported. 90% of remaining Vraxian ships have lost all power. The rest are retreating beyond the barrier's expansion zone. The alien commander's form flickered again. This is impossible. Your species was barely capable of basic quantum manipulation when we arrived. You could not have developed this technology under our supervision. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. We didn't develop it under your supervision. We developed it right in front of you, using the very components you forced us to collect. You saw exactly what your preconceptions told you to see. Simple laborers sorting through debris. You never considered that we might understand the universe in ways you couldn't grasp. The barrier continued its expansion, transforming space itself as it grew. In its wake, the laws of physics aligned with humanity's understanding of quantum mechanics, creating a solar system where human innovation could flourish unimpeded by Vraxian interference. Final Vraxian ships crossing the Kuiper Belt, Marcus reported. They're transmitting warnings to their empire, advising others to avoid Earth's space. Sarah watched as the alien commander's hologram faded away, its quantum systems finally failing completely. Around them, the command center hummed with human technology, operating more efficiently than ever in the newly altered physics of their solar system. Begin transmission to all Earth facilities, she ordered. Tell them they can power up their quantum labs again. Humanity has a lot of catching up to do. And now we have an entire solar system that operates according to our understanding of physics. As celebrations erupted across the planet, Sarah looked at the device that had saved humanity. A masterpiece of human ingenuity built from the scraps of their own defeated civilization. The Vraxians had taught humanity an invaluable lesson. True power didn't lie in technological superiority, but in the ability to see beyond assumed limitations.